I should.
This is K.O.P.A, the roar, the pride. Brothers in boots, we stood side by side. We built the league, we built a name. We played for love, not fortune or fame. This is K.O.P.A, our hearts are song. The spirit leaves, it's never gone.
Good evening, Kalispera. Welcome to the first official edition of This is K.O.P.A or K.O.P.A, 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 K.O.P.A. It doesn't matter. You know what I'm talking about. I'm Stel. Mike Pierre is here, and we have our very first guest. Mike, first of all, how you doing, my guy?
I'm good, Stel. You? Excited, actually, excited. After last week, lots and lots of interest. Phone's been blowing up with people wanting to come on, and I'm very excited, very happy that my good friend Chris has come and joined us today.
Well, you know what? You did the intro very well, but do you want to introduce our guest in a more eloquent way, Mr. Pierre?
Yes, of course. So, Chris Mousicos, a stalwart of the K.O.P.A League, top player in his day, then went on to do youth football coaching. And that's where I properly met Chris. So we did a lot of stuff with the youth football. And Chris is a football man through and through, but it's not only just about the win, it's about doing it in the right way. Certainly when it comes to kids football, but when we're talking about adult football, Chris was a top player, combative, wanted to win. And he's got loads of stories to share with us today. So welcome, Chris.
Thanks for having me, guys. And yeah, to be the first one on is an honor. So I'm truly grateful to be here and looking forward to it. And thanks for that. The whole top player thing as well. So some might disagree.
But he did your Wikipedia bio right there.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So, plus, those that met me after K.O.P.A League wouldn't call me combative. They'd see me as more of a technical flair player.
Okay, Mike, come on. You didn't.
Although Mike is right.
That
was me. That was me playing back in the day. Yeah. So yeah.
Bravo.
And I think it's a great thing. I think it's a great thing you're doing. So
we're trying, man. We're trying. You know, it's funny because I put the intro video across various social media accounts, and I had one message from Nick, my friend Nick, today. He goes, I think I'm in that first clip of the K.O.P.A guy. I'm like, really? He goes, yeah, I'm number 2. I'm like, there you go, straight away. Incredible, absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And we're hoping that this will pick up because, look, as I said on the first episode, I'm not too familiar or versed on the K.O.P.A League, and people such as yourselves can educate me, and also we can give that nostalgia back, because I think people would like to talk about it, and it seems like a very interesting subject for many, very nostalgic, as I said. So yeah, Mike, you sent me some photographs, but maybe Chris, you can shed some light on this one here. What's this about?
Okay, so that was actually a historical season. So I can tell you about just the photo. I can tell you about why it was historical as well. So when we were this actually goes back to the very earliest days, when I was 14, 15, something like that. No, I think I was 14 years old, and the late great Jimmy Cattle, who was manager of Ammonia at the time, he'd managed K.O.P.A successfully, but he was manager of Ammonia, and he had a vision for the future to bring in a lot of young players. So he just invited, we were all going along and watching Ammonia men's at Broomfield Park, which was, again, that in itself, watching the games as a kid was phenomenal, really, just captivating. And he just said, tell your friends, we're gonna have a trial, Broomfield Park, 14 years old. Loads of us went. He ended up with a bunch of really good bunch of young players, but obviously they couldn't play in the K.O.P.A League, so he threw us all into the bottom division of the Islington Midweek League at Market Road, which you couldn't do these days for safeguarding reasons. So there we were, 14, 15, playing against men, and most of the time winning until we came up against a half decent real men's side. Do you know what I mean? And the oldest player in the team wouldn't have been 20. Anyway, those players, including me at 16, went off and played for different men's teams, kind of separated a little bit. That year of that photo was 1990, 91, where we all came back together again. So I'd been at Akna, Georgiou, and I think Fidor, my friend Fidor, had been at Hermes. The players had been everywhere. We came together, and the oldest player in the team was Tony Andro, Costas Andro. Bash, don't know if you know Bash, Tony Andro. His brother Cos, the goalkeeper, and he must have been 25. Everyone else was 22, 23 or younger. And the great AL were in their heyday at the time. And yeah, there was a lot of competition for places. Tony Ponu, lots of players were there. That picture, we'd won for the first 4 games of the season in a row, 4-1, I think, all of them. And I was playing centre mid. And there were a lot, as I said, there was a lot of competition, and no one was ousting me from that position. Do you know what I mean? I was like, that was at Pickett's Lock, the old Pickett's Lock. And shortly after that picture was taken, I damaged my knee or my ankle, ligament damage. And yeah, I never played again that season. And they went on the week after, they beat the great AL 4-0, something live on. It was on I think Rick came and filmed it. And everyone thought we were going to learn our lesson, and we give him a hiding, and went on to win the title that season. So, but yeah, didn't end too well for me. That was the final game of my season. So, yeah.
So you mentioned earlier, you getting into a team. Was that how you first got involved in K.O.P.A?
That's how I first got involved in K.O.P.A. My cousin, who's 4 years older than me, was playing for Omonia Men's. His dad, because all of my family on my mum's side, especially my mum's brother, this uncle of mine, big Omonia, there's the Omonia Lefkosia. My uncle was the club doctor, I believe, at Omonia Lefkosia. So my cousin was playing for Omonia at Broomfield Park, and that's when it would take us along and watch. And yeah, it used to suck you in, you know. You go to Broomfield Park and you'd see all these. It was like different tiers of supporters. So you'd have all the old Greek boys in their suits arguing and bickering and having a laugh and eating their pistachio nuts, and then you'd have all the rest of the sort of families, friends, and then you'd have the kids at the bottom, the children of the players knocking about. And then girls who would fancy some of the players who'd be on the sidelines and all that. But then I remember even back then, what struck me is like you'd see non-supporters or just family people sort of walking their children through the park, and even they would be looking and thinking, well, what's going on here? Do you know what I mean? There's like hundreds of people watching these games, and you know, and yeah, they would. I remember it must have been a national, like an All England med game. There's a match program and everything. You know, that's what kind of sucked us in, I think, back then. You know,
Chris, were there K.O.P.As at half time in your day?
Oh man, we're talking about Omonia, playing for Omonia. That was one of the perks, man. We had the K.O.P.A man was on our committee. So after whatever he didn't sell, used to come into the changing room. So we used to get the K.O.P.As were a huge part of it, man. In a Siglan. K.O.P.As in a Siglan, yeah.
We got a comment here from Chris Anthony. Jimmy Cattle was a good man. Welcome, Chris.
Yeah, well said, Chris. He was a good man. He was talking about him last week with another player that played in that team with us, and he was saying about some of the stuff that he did for him. If I may say so, he used to really like me, and the boys used to take the piss and call him my dad. And then one day we were coming back from one of those games at Market Road, and he had one of those little, I don't know what they are, the little Toyota vans, the minivans, and I was in the front, and everyone else would be in the back, and I think I must have had some kind of dispute with my late stepfather, and he was asking me about it. You know, how's things at home, son? How's things at home? Like, just then I told him, yeah, it's my stepdad. He goes, and then he said the last thing he should have said with these lot listening in the back. How'd you like me as your stepdad? Fucking destroyed me, man. So, but he used to say things like, even when people used to go on about some of the flair players that we had back then, and even then he would say, the best players don't get noticed as much, son. The best players don't get noticed as much, like the workhorses. So he was a good man. He was a good man. In fact, 1992, I came back from Cyprus after I went out there for a mission war trial. That's what it was, though, going out there to play out there. And I came. Hey,
who with? Which club?
Oh God, the official trial was meant to be with an officers.
Okay.
And I went and I trialed with them, and I thought I'd done well. But when I look back now, it's like I was like a nobody. So they had one final trial match at Akhna Stadium before they decided on their pre-season tour squad to go to Bulgaria, and they played me the last 5 minutes of this trial match at left back. And I was like, if anything, I was a right back. So I remember then thinking, they're not going to, and then I went to Amonyara, who a yo-yo team, up one season, down the next, up one season, down the next. They just sold their right back to an officers. So I've gone there. And yeah, I smashed it, but I also smashed that too much. Going out and drinking, my routine was, I think you know what, when you think about these days, how many young people who can't kill their dreams, but they think they're going to be pros and they're pretty far off it. That illusion lasts a little bit longer. Mine ended then. I was old enough and to realize that was it. I had my chance. I could have stayed there. They wanted me to stay, but I didn't have the right attitude. But as I said, I came back and I was playing for an officers against Omonia at New River, and I've gone flying down the left wing. Cross has come over. I've gone to head it across the box, and then done that. And I carried on running, and my momentum took me straight into a hockey goal where I smashed. A lot of people remember it. They remember hearing it. Smashed it. I had 8 stitches in my head, and that was for an officers. But the first person that was there, dressing me and checking me, was Jimmy Cattle. So, and he was a Monya manager. So, so I remember that.
Do you know what, Mike? If memory serves me correct, do you want to take a guess which player joined Unorthodoxy that 1992, that summer of 92? You take a guess?
I reckon I can.
K.O.P.A.
Yep.
Yeah. I was training with him on the beach.
There you go. Joined in that summer. They sold Mike on Beagle and they brought in K.O.P.A.
Beagle, that's it. And there was another guy who was there at the time who I saw him do. He literally switched the ball from centre mid to the left wing with a Rabona, like just in the middle of Kostov or something.
Kostov, the Bulgarian. Yeah.
So I didn't know who was who then, and I'm guessing me and K.O.P.A had hair.
Yeah.
Chris, I just want to ask
they had the Georgian coach at the time as well, if I'm not mistaken, and he got sacked after a couple of games, I think.
Yeah.
Chris, so we're much older now. We live in a generation and an era of social media, mobile phones, lots of distractions. For you back then, you sort of alluded to it in terms of how young you were when you got into the team. You went to Cyprus, but how did football fit into your everyday life? And how important was K.O.P.A when you finally got into the Omonia team? And just take us through that that part of your existence in K.O.P.A.
How did football fit into my everyday life? Well, first and foremost, we would have played 4 or 5 times or 6 times a week, man. It was like, so that having midweek football as well under floodlights. It was almost like that's almost missing. So we used to do that as well. So we'd play football at school, play football on Saturdays, play football on Sundays, and then also the midweek thing. Exciting, man, jumping on the Piccadilly line. For me, I mean, how it fitted into my life, you probably know a little bit about this as well. It was being a therapist and I'm doing a lot of self-reflecting of the things that were important to me, the things that I wouldn't say saved me, but were a massive part of healing process for me. So that was huge for me. Eventually playing for the men's team, I just, you know what, for someone who probably I couldn't call myself that confident with a lot of other areas of my life, but 16 rocking up to play for Akna, who were a good side too. And my cousin took me there. They had a lot of good players. Les Ferdinand had just left the year before I joined. I actually expected to walk in. Football-wise, I had a bit of an arrogance there, and I think there probably weren't too many. There were a few of us young players there, but I was certainly one of the ones who was the new kid on the block. And they you get smothered, right? They put those fatherly arms around you, man, and like, oh, no, Roso Fundis, or you know what I mean? It was like that, man. And it was a secure base for me. Do you know what I mean? It was I loved it. First training session. I don't know if you remember Gwen, Turkish Gwen. I've sadly passed away not even 5 years ago, it's a few years ago. He was a flying, because the Cypriot League there were teams that had 8 Turkish Cypriots playing for them. Do you know what I mean? It was beautiful, and Gwen was one of the ones that always played for, he was at Akana as well. He was injured or he was away. So my first game in 1988 was against Bark at Market Road. 16 years old, proper eager beaver, flying in to challenges, and they stuck me out on the wing like they do with a youngster. I wanted to, and it was there. It's like from there, it kind of gripped me, man. You got all these. I don't know if you know much about Akana, but Akana were run by the famous George Gilligida of Holloway Sports, where every K.O.P.A League player used to buy their football boots. Most clubs used to give a £25 allowance, and it came with the job. So I left school at 16, got a job at Holloway Sports, and part of that was signing for Akana. You had to sign for Akana as well. So
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So I used to see all the players coming in as well, getting their boots from there. So that's when I first saw all the faces and stuff. So played against some really good players on that day. Possibly one who a lot of people would say was the best or the most skillful player K.O.P.A ever saw was George Costa. He used to be able to juggle a snooker ball and all that back then, and he was, he was good friends with my cousin who was at Akna. And I think I ruffled a few feathers because they were telling me after that I needed to calm down a bit, and I didn't know what being calm was. You know what I mean?
Chris, is that a name we're going to hear more and more on this show?
George Costa?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. He's one of the few that was he was at pro clubs back then. I could probably tell you the ones that you would hear of if I'm obviously there. I stopped when I stopped, and there would have been some after, but from anything kind of pre when I stopped in 2005, I think.
Well, I was going to ask like who your toughest opponents were, but I'm guessing those names that you're going to mention fit within that criteria, no? Yeah.
I mean, I played with a lot of the players that I would have regarded as the best, but certainly you had back then. IL were like, even though I played for a men's team, it was almost like IL were real men. I mean, that's what it seemed like. They seemed to have the biggest, Shagali, the technical players they had. Yeah, I just remember them being quite intimidating. Even they had the best non-Cypriot players that they would get from Islington Midweek League or wherever they would get them from, and their manager Shoebox and Nick Kiprianu. Yeah, Shagali was the legend. Our own Kip Kiprianu was something else. Hardest player I ever played against. Interestingly, Mike mentioned him to you recently, Andy Clark.
Okay, ex-Wimbledon. Okay.
So that season, that Andy Clark was a friend of my cousin's. So I actually saw him at a wedding a few years ago, and we spent the night chatting away about stuff. We were in Liverpool, and that year when I was 16 and I was playing for Akna and I was flying, we played against his team. I think that they were called Zephs, but then changed their name to Phoenix Apollo. There was a guy who owned the Phoenix Apollo restaurant in Stratford, where all the guy called Panny, who a lot of the West Ham players used to go. So I can't remember where he found Clarkey from, but we were playing centre mid. I was playing centre midfield against him, and I just remember at one point touching him somehow in play and thinking, this guy feels like he's metal. He's like made of metal, and he done something, put me off balance without even touching me, and I end up tearing my knee ligaments, ankle ligaments, and my groins in one. And this guy was just, he was. You could see he was different level, man. It wasn't long before. I think it might have been Man City or someone bigger than that wanted him before. So he was probably the best. There were some great players, but he was probably the best that I played against. Yeah.
Nice.
Oh,
Nice.
I remember.
So I mean, that's great players, and some great players that are not necessarily characters. Do you want to take us through some of the characters that you played with and against? I mean, I remember Shagali in his later years when he played for Cosmos, and when I used to, as you know, I'm from South London, and he back then in his 40s, he was the fittest person. He had the biggest mouth, so sharp in his elbows, famously. So for me, he was a character. Nicky Milo, the coach. I don't know if you know Nicky Milo from Cosmos. To me, they were characters that I was aware of. But what about you, Chris? Who are the characters that you can say they were larger than the game, they were larger than life, and not necessarily the best players?
Okay. Well, Shagali, first and foremost, I've got to say, Shagali is actually my uncle. I don't know if you knew that, but Shagali is my uncle. Characters, okay. So there are a couple at Bark. There was Big Cos, who used to play at the back, who was like just used to eat people. He used to look like what's his name? Honey Monster from Sugar Puffs. He was a beast, man. I just remember him. Characters. Bobsy. Michael Kulumanu, who in our most successful season ever, I was right back, he was right mid. He just what intrigued me about him, because he was one of the ones that was was part of Cattle's plan when we were at Islington Midweek League. So I was 14, he was 15. And he was a Greek boy who none of us knew, who came out of Islington, who didn't really speak Greek, who was a proper wide boy and all that. So, and came on to just, again, I was a bit more of an introvert. So going into the men's game with a lot of these big characters that I had around me used to intimidate me. Like if they said, get off a free kick, and I was used to taking everything. I was captain in my school teams and all that. Bubsy weren't like that. He didn't give a shit. He was like, nah, get off, I'm taking it. He was proper, like, he was absolute class. I think the main characters, would have been the ones who were on their way out when I was going in. That part of that great Omonia London team that beat Omonia Lefkosia. 1-0? They beat him out there.
At the Magario, yeah.
Yeah. Pani Banayodu. He was my first manager at Akna. Chris Carley was in that team as well. Another one. Just remember him, Mr. Spurs. Always seemed to be foaming out the mouth, wanting to eat someone as well.
Hold on. Is that Alex and Didi's dad?
Are you asking Mike or Mike?
Spurs fans.
So. Yeah. Chris wants to come on the show. Chris wants to come on the show.
Yeah, I'll get him on. He must have some stories.
Oh, he's great. He's great. Played with him in the vets. He's brilliant, man. He's brilliant.
Yeah, he was. So that season when I went to Akna, the first season that I was at Akna, he left because he was an Anorthosis man as well, wasn't he? And he went to Anorthosis, and it was my first experience of being poached. I was 16, man, and and I was the new kid, and he wanted to take me to Anorthosis. And obviously, Anorthosis were probably second to AL. They're a really good side, man. A lot of good players. I used to love watching them, and he wanted to take me there. And because of that, they all started falling out. George Artie, Chris Carr, all of them, mate, Tony Portu. They were like, can you fucking do that? How can you take it? So I just left. I left the league and went back and played my last year of youth football. I just thought, nah, I ain't getting involved in that. So yeah, Chris Carley was get him on, man.
We'll do, definitely.
Joe, I've got an unplanned question, right?
Go on.
Do you have a Cypriot team? Is Omonia your Cypriot team?
I guess so. I guess it's because I played for a few teams in the K.O.P.A League, but I've got a strong.
If you have a team that's to support in Cyprus, would it be Omonia? Would it be Anorthosis? Would it be?
Yeah, I don't. Even with Man United, I don't care. I stopped being emotionally invested in football, but yeah, I would say it would be Omonia, because even when I went on trial in '92 to Cyprus to Anorthosis, my family was saying to me, Brosik, don't tell them your surname, because when they find out politically, when they find out who you are.
Right.
So
this is a segue to my question, because while it's the K.O.P.A League and it's based in London, or was based in London, did you feel, I'm an Omonia fan, but I could play for Anorthosis? Did you feel that, I don't want to play for them because they're Anorthosis? Is it because, they're just a London team? It's not the Anorthosis, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I didn't care for all that. I didn't really understand it. I didn't care about the political stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's Omonia and Salamina were always meant to be aligned, but in matches they used to want to take each other's heads off, man. So it used to. So yeah, no, I never thought of that. Even when I went out there, I didn't think about it at all. It's yeah.
Fair enough. Because Mike could never play for Abuel. He could never play for Abuel. I'm throwing you in there, mate.
Yeah.
Interesting you should say that. I actually played from Abuel Vets.
Did
you? Sorry.
Yeah, for a season and a half. I actually did.
You have an Omonia shirt underneath.
I did. I wore money underneath my Abuel shirt. I absolutely did. I'm not even lying.
Oh man. Yeah.
Chris, so you went into the league as a youngster. You're talented, talented young player. But not everyone was as talented as you at that young age. But do you think the league kept the younger generation connected to their Cypriot roots or to the community? Do you think K.O.P.A had that power, or was it just purely football?
No, man.
I think it was beyond football. I think it was beyond football, in my opinion.
Okay, so depending on there were some great community clubs, right? Dynamo were a top community club. I knew a lot of people from different clubs, but I just got a little shiver down my spine actually. You just mentioned that, because I thought about Akna, I thought about what we used to do. We would leave training on a Tuesday night, whenever it was, and we would go to the community centre, the Cypriot community centre, and George Gilligidal or the other committee members would be there already. You'd sit around, the mezedes would start coming out. Do you know what I mean? It was that, and especially for me, who was I always thought I had a very non-Greek upbringing. Do you know what I mean? I was like, I never used to go to, I used to detest, rebel against going Greek school and successfully rebel. Just never used to do the dance, all that dancing and going to church. Never used to be, but that, yeah, 100%, man. And the dinner and dances, yeah, very, very, very important. Yeah, and to think about how many friends that I kept from the K.O.P.A League, you know, especially if you weren't from Haringey or those areas where there was a big community, they're the friends that you often used to keep for life. Like I said, like Mitzi, I was with Mitzi last week. I spoke to Bubsy the week before. This is all from the K.O.P.A League. So yeah. So yeah, very, very, very much so, man. Very much so, and really proud of it, man. Really proud to, you know, when we won the London Cup for Omonia, it was mad, to be honest. We played against Continentals, who I believe were an East London side, all sort of West Indian roots. Maybe the two oldest clubs, one of the oldest Cypriot clubs met one of the oldest West Indian clubs at Cypriot clubs meeting West India at Wingate and Finchley, and we got there and the whole stand was green because the Gibrey got there first, because from what I understand, even though we're late everywhere, and what from my Jamaican mates tell me is, yeah, we're just a bit later than you. so the stand was full of ammonia, and I remember being really proud when that final whistle went. And what it meant to the committees and to all of us lot, that a Cypriot team had put their name in the, you know, I just remember us being super proud of that. So
do you think we've lost that now that K.O.P.A's not around? I know we've got our youth 100%. Football teams, but
yeah,
I think K.O.P.A was beyond that, wasn't it? It transcended the football. It was part of the community. It was, you know, it was embedded in our culture, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was, but like I said, I know we're going to go on to the demise and all that, and what went wrong. I'm pretty sure, but yeah, we took it for granted, man. We took it for granted. Terrible that died. Really, it almost doesn't make sense when you think about how big Omonia youth are and the amount of Cypriot players that are produced. That could have just, you know, and I've got my own theories as to why it happened. So
do you want to share them? Do you want to air them publicly, or is that for another time?
No, I'm happy to do that. Well, I think the likes of me, I can't speak for you guys, but the likes of me, I feel like we're partly responsible because we should have naturally been the next committee members. We should have naturally got into that role. We should have. It's only in my later years that I realised how important it was and what it meant to them, the committee members, and how important it was for the community for it to be around. And I've said it many times to a lot of the guys my own age that we should have been the Omonia committee. The other should have been the Yak committee. We should have just kept it alive, man. These people we took the piss as well, really, because we didn't pay a penny to play. Every other league were paying subs. We didn't pay. Not only did we not pay a penny, but obviously certain people were getting paid to play, which that's also another reason why it went up, in my opinion. But yeah, so we didn't value it enough. We didn't value it enough, and it was always going to happen when that committee, when the ones who truly cared, who were invested in it emotionally, stepped away. We were a bunch of sport brats, man.
Chris, obviously it's different times, but had something like social media been around then and the potential to increase visibility and bring in things like branding and all that kind of stuff, sponsorships, do you think it would have continued because there would have been that capital coming in? or maybe not, because some people perhaps weren't great with money. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know nothing about this league.
Yeah, I think so. I think it could have been quite powerful. I think, you know, that there are a lot of people that were even back then, few years before it, before it ended, that were talking about people coming together and investing financially and taking over Haringey Borough, and K.O.P.A being a Saturday team. Do you know what I mean? Just putting even that, again, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but even that we couldn't get our heads around, you know, because it was their committee and them, and maybe the political side, and who's going to be in charge, and how can we come together, and so I don't. Yeah, the funding was certainly there. We've certainly had enough high-profile people that could have done that. Like I said, if we had the exposure, if we had what we've got now, listen, I quit, like I said, in 2005, and the league went on for however long it went after that. So I don't know what happened after that. People were always getting paid to play, even in my day. I'm not going to lie. Do you know what I mean? People were getting it. From what I understand, after I left it, that went to a different level. You know, I mean, again, like I remember, like all right. So here's another thing, right? I used to know a player of a team back then that was playing in the K.O.P.A League after I finished, and I remember them saying to me, "Chris, man, what we're going to do? We need to raise some money by this time, or the team's going to go under." And it was a well-known team. And I said to him, like, he's going on like, "No, he really cares. It's so sad." And he's basically saying, because that guy can't afford to fund it anymore, this poor one-man committee. I go to him, fucking pay then. Do you know what I mean? You lot come together and pay it. Do you really want it to? And that kind of summed it all up for me a little bit. You know?
Well, see, this is the thing. When it comes to grassroots football, funding has always been an issue. I mean, Mike knows more about it than I do. And, you know, whether it be kits, whether it be just the bare minimum of paying for, I don't know, the lights to be on, all that kind of stuff. There are all these overheads. But look, again, being someone that doesn't know much about the league and how it operated, when you see how many Cypriots there are in London and how many business people there are and were, it's grima, man. It really is grima, because this could have been something huge. And not just for London, but also for, okay, people are going to say, "Oh, you talk about there," but even for the Cyprus national team, the Cyprus League. You know, if you look now, all right, it's taken a while, but now the national team is playing British Cypriots. Sodiril's been called up, Kypriano's been called up, various other players in the under-21s, Ortelli, who's at Watford. You've got Harry Mills, left back at Brighton. And I'm thinking, God, can you imagine how good that national team would have been if, you know, there'd been some British Cypriots that would been able to qualify. But anyway, it's hypothetical, I guess, isn't it?
You know, still, it's a few years ago. Again, I think it was just before it was on its way out. A few people came together. I was talking about, I attended a K.O.P.A meeting and I voiced my views, even though I've kind of been away from it. I wrote a dissertation about well-being in football and the value of football in a young person's life, what it can actually do. And I was really invested in K.O.P.A and what it meant to me. So I went along to this meeting, and my contribution was all about community. Yes, it was successful. Yes, we produced some top teams and some top players, but that's not where I was going. Where I was going was knowing the funding that's out there for mental health, for community projects, to sell that and go around to all these players and ask them what you guys are doing. Basically, what did football mean to you away from just the football? How, you know, what did it represent? If you think about what it did, if you gather all that information of what it did for so many players, where they could have been doing other stuff in their lives, and how it really held us. That in itself would have been enough to have for someone to have come forward. I'm confident that if I had led it, I would have ended up with funding. I would have put up a good enough case forward to say this can't end because it's done this. But what happened? We went to these meetings and everyone started talking about, let's publicise the fact that IL won the London Cup in 19. No, it's just not. That's not where I wanted to go. That's a side thing. It was successful, but the whole thing about the nurturing part. Yes, to this day I still believe that money could have been raised, which is such a shame, man. That could have still been around. It was represented the right way, or presented the right way. Sorry.
Absolutely. Pierre?
Well, do you think K.O.P.A will ever come back, Chris? Do you think we'll ever have another K.O.P.A League?
Not. It will never be anything like what it was, I don't think. The other thing is, so I remember going to watch before Anthony went to Watford. He was playing for Omonia Youth, and I went to watch a tournament one summer, and I saw, I'm not gonna name him, but it's a very well known K.O.P.A player of older than me. He was quite successful as well. He was coaching a team. His son was playing, and I saw him there, and I just said as a passing comment, one for K.O.P.A for the future. It might have been his son. And it was like I'd sworn at him. And he turned around and said, we're aiming a bit higher than that, Chris. Do you know what I mean? So there was a whole lot of my generation who, even though it was good to us, still spoke badly of it. Like it ruined them. And stay away from it. So I think a whole generation needs to pass. to be too old for it, and then if with stuff like this, the history of it again, in public and starting again, I think it could be at a smaller level. Yeah, why not?
I mean, because we spoke last week about how there are lots of teams in the Barnet Sunday League with roots in K.O.P.A, and still lots of Cypriots, Turkish Cypriots, Greek Cypriots, playing in the Barnet Sunday League, but they're all at different levels, and their clubs the clubs exist for different reasons. So you've got the clubs at the top who want go out actively, try and get the best players, so they want to win the trophies, and you've still got those community clubs. The shame of K.O.P.A towards the end was that you had one division, but you had two divisions within one division, unfortunately, where you had those community clubs just wanting to have a laugh with their mates and continue through football, playing against those, I was going to say monsters, and I don't mean it in a derogatory way, those, really passionate about winning teams, and they could not coexist. So I think we lost something along the way where K.O.P.A initially existed to keep the diaspora together. Football was our vehicle for keeping the community together, meeting up. And then over time, success bred something different in some people where you're just chasing, whether it's dreams or trophies and so on. And the gap started to widen and it became a chasm. And that's when it collapsed. And that's the shame of it, that we sort of lost the reason for it being there. Because that's the shame of it. Whereas we, fortunately, Chris, we were able, through our involvement in youth football, saw that togetherness. I don't know, Stel, if you know that Chris and I coached at the same age group. So Chris had a team, I had a team, and there was two other teams. And while there was rivalries between the two pairs, we used to train together, to play games together. The kids all knew each other from school. We all got on together. And that was quite unique for us at Omonia Youth, that that period, that era. And that was simply because you had 4 groups of people who loved football, wanted to do it for their children, their nephews, and whatever, but had a common ideal. Once that common ideal doesn't exist, that's where you see the parting of the ways, and that's the shame of it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So would you say that's probably the biggest thing that you guys lost with the K.O.P.A League disappearing, or was it more that you guys lost? Obviously, you lost the camaraderie. You still speak to these people that you played alongside or played against, but was it that community spirit mostly that you lost, or was it more?
I mean, my son and Chris's son are the same age, even though they played 2 different teams at the same club. 30 years ago, they would have ended up playing in the same league at K.O.P.A, maybe at 2 different clubs, maybe even at the same club. You don't know. As they grew older, got mature, and they would have had friendships on a different level. Our children and that generation have lost that opportunity. In my opinion, they lost the opportunity to the community spirit, the camaraderie, the togetherness, and to exist, in a community within a community, but transcended that football sphere. That's what I think our kids have lost. I know that if your son saw my son, they'll say hello to each other, and they may say something about playing football 10 years ago or 6 years ago, whatever. But Chris, Chris, you've got people from K.O.P.A that you still speak to. Same here. And we're talking 15, 20, 30 years ago. And that's the fundamental difference. And that's where communities sometimes start to drift apart. And that can be dangerous. That could be dangerous, not in a horrible way, but dangerous in that you lose that identity.
Well, I mean, I think a few years ago, I can't remember how long ago it was, we were talking about the potential for K.O.P.A to be based in one place. So something like, whether it be Enfield playing fields or whatever, really, really simple concept. You'd have a center, a place with 3 or 4 pitches, and you'd have a 10 o'clock kickoff, a 12 o'clock, like Maccabi have. You would have our own thing, and it would be 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, all of the one clubhouse, for events, the socials, and every single Greek club you'd play, and you'd mingle into the bar. That should have been the natural progression. That because we're losing this pitch and that pitch, and the community centre's not as appealing anymore, and that restaurant's closed down. All right, we're going to have our own. We're going to have our own thing. That could have been that could have been amazing, man. That could have been amazing. But yeah, I don't know. I think from when I ended up having a lot of these conversations with a lot of people over the years, and I used to point certain things out, I realized that maybe not a lot of people cared as much as I did, or they would say, "Oh, right, I never thought of it like that." Do you know what I mean? They'll be happy to just watch things just go, just to disappear, and yeah, there's lots of things, definitely lots of things that could have been done, but I definitely agree. There are a few ruptures between, because of the rivalries and stuff. It was there was a lot of "I'm all right, Jack" attitudes.
The thing is, Chris, when you guys have lived it, and you are all at the age where you've learned and you've matured, surely your experiences, you guys can put your ideas together and say, right, we're going to do something probably very similar, but do it in a much different way that is not only appealing, but also fair. Because it just seems to me, again, from what I've heard over the years, it's either political or financial. Those are the 2 biggest issues, which is quite ironic because it's the same as Cyprus football. So I don't know. Perhaps I'm waffling. Yeah.
Like I said, if we were given an unlimited pot of money, and the aim was within 2 years to have K.O.P.A up and running again, that'll be an interesting one. to see how many teams you could actually put together.
Well, the thing is, people have been messaging me. Even the day after we did the pod mic, I had 3 people calling me saying, "Oh, what a great concept! And it would be great to bring it back." I'm thinking, well, if there's 3 people there and there's a few others already, I'm sure there's going to be many more people that would want to get involved in something like this. Maybe we can, I don't know, arrange a meeting somewhere and just sit down and thrash out some ideas. Again, maybe this is just me overthinking, or
I mean, Goba's
kind of thing.
Goba's still got a committee. The committee still exists. So the K.O.P.A name still sits with the London FA. So it hasn't gone anywhere in terms of name. It just hasn't got a league or teams playing in its league. So there's still lots of good people with great intentions for K.O.P.A. So that when we have the K.O.P.A Vets tournament every few months or so, very well attended, but we're all getting older. And, if you're going to have a K.O.P.A League, it's the younger generation who are going to have to play in it. And that's the point, who's going to play in it? Because us vets, in 10 years' time, won't be able to play anymore. How long can that go on for? So unless the structure is put together for these teams to play, it's as I said to you last week, I don't think it will come back. The memories are fantastic. They form part of people's formative years. They're important in the history of our community. But maybe that's just what it is. It was a product of its time, and it's had its time. But things like this are great because getting people like Chris here, and then if we get the others as well, we'll get together. And these are important, social occasions, and to be able to, broadcast it, celebrate it, and love it for what it was. And maybe, reminiscing too hard about not what it was or what it still could be may not be the way. We should just be grateful we had it rather than trying to pine for something that may not ever happen again. Just being realistic, in my opinion, but that's my soapbox bit.
Well,
I think it would be great. Go on, sorry.
No. It's fine.
No, I was going to say it would be great for you guys to maybe get some people from other leagues that have since other community leagues that have since formed. Like you've got leagues with just Albanian teams, for example. That it would be good to get people that are behind those, because what drives that, the community spirit that drives that, it's basically the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was also an interest of mine, is the timing of, it only, again, as an adult, I thought to myself, oh shit, where were the people that set up K.O.P.A emotionally when they set that up? What were they driven by? They'd come from war-torn Cyprus. Do you know what I mean? They're finding it was all about existing. It was about having some kind of purpose. Do you know what I mean? They came over here lost, and that was born. It's magical, man. It's the original painting is still there.
I think Chris is hitting the nail right on the head to exactly what you just said. It's passion.
Yeah,
they've got a reason. It's like when you talk about the Brazilian footballers. They play in the favela, and then when they get the big move to Europe, that's what they're playing for. Perhaps the K.O.P.A League was, as you mentioned, Cyprus with the situation in '74 was created for some kind of, I don't know, escapism, to get away from the norm, so to speak, the 9 to 5, and then become a community through football.
It rose through the ashes, man. It was like, I never realized how much. I never realized just how much. We're going to set up this thing that's going to bring us together. You had the CAFs that went along with it that you can go and sit in. It was special, man. It meant a lot to a lot of people. Every club had their, dare I say, their Klingons, the old boys that used to be there. And again, what did it meant so much for them, man. To be part of something, they'd be there week in, week out. These lot were, like, I was at Ammonia. These lot were Ammonia Lefkosia fanatics, right? It was their own little thing. that copied the bigger one. You know, gave them meaning, man. It was. I still think a YouTube K.O.P.A team would be fantastic. I think a lot of people would be up for that. You know, and it would be a real great way to document the you know, a lot of the history through that. You know, because a lot of people would back that. I think so.
Maybe that is the next
idea out there, man.
Maybe that's the next step. Maybe that's the next step that our generation, Chris, and the ones that came before us, that maybe that's where K.O.P.A's future lies.
K.O.P.A FC could work. Well, Mike, you mentioned history. Let's bring up this photograph. What's this?
Aha! So this is the photograph that I mentioned on last week's pod. So this is, as far as I'm aware, the oldest existing photograph of KLN,
Wow.
And that photo is taken in Moscow in the 1957, I think, if I'm right. And if you count from the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's my dad.
Oh, wow.
So that's my old man. And they went from London. They represented Cyprus at the World Youth Games in Russia. And they were playing there against, as far as if I remember, the Royal Air Force. And my dad tells me that they played the Air Force, the Army, and another team, another local village team. And he said before this game, they went out the night before. And all young men, you know, excited and playing. And they went and ate together. It was like this really communal thing. Like, again, we're talking about community. And they sat a Russian player, a KLM player, Russian player, KLM player, and they ate together. And my dad said, they've never drunk so much vodka. And they got on the pitch the next day, and it was hard for them. I think he said I think they got beat, but it was just such a wonderful experience. And yeah, that's one of the old, well, as far as I'm aware, the oldest photo of KLN. And they're all they're all Greek Cypriots. They're all Cypriots. I think there may have been a Turkish Cypriot. I'm not sure, but I think one of them, at least two of them, went on to play in Cyprus. I think one of them, the one next to my dad, the sixth player along, I think he ended up going to Omonia Lefkosia.
Blimey!
But yeah,
that was in Moscow. That picture. That picture's taken in.
Yeah, if you zoom in at the back, you can see the Russian writing.
Oh, let me expand it. I don't think you can. I can't zoom in. Sorry.
No.
Sorry.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
Sorry. Well, there's some more. There's this one.
That's one of my stints as Omonia London manager. Yeah. So I mean, looking there, there are some people there who are still involved in the game, still in the Barnet Sunday League, and so on. Yeah.
That's a tidy kit, by the way.
It's good, isn't it? Yeah, it's good, isn't it? Yeah, the committee paid for that.
I love an Adidas kit.
Yeah.
Right, and this one?
Yes, so that one, I'm in my suit there because I had parents' evening that night. Right, I had parents' evening, and this was
amazing.
Yeah, and I had to go straight from. I think I was at Kingsmead there, so parents' evening, finished late, and ended up going here to. It was a pitch in Brimsdown, if I recall, and it was a cup game. It was a divisional cup game, and the gentleman on the extreme right, Goodley, bless him, God rest his soul, he passed away a few years ago. He was one of the characters as well, Goodley, bless him. He was fantastic. So we co-managed this team, and Goodley was one of those players where one of those managers who he did youth football as well, and a lot of those players played youth football for him, and they wanted to play for him in adult football. And he'd be one of those, he's a big Arsenal fan as well, Goodley. And we could be, I don't know, 2-0 down with 15 minutes to go. And he would say, Mike, we go 3 at the back and we go for it. And we would, and we'd win. I mean, he was, he'd love things like that. And again, some really good players there, great times. And yeah, memories, man, memories.
Got more. You sent me loads. They're all coming up, mate. Don't worry. Don't worry. Come on.
Oh, that was the charity event for Danny Bailey. last year, and that's at Haringey Borough. So you put together, the community put together a Salamina versus Omonia Vets game. And Chris will probably be able to name pretty much all of those players because there's some K.O.P.A legends in that picture. There's some K.O.P.A legends. Isn't that right, Chris?
Yeah, there's some good players there, man. There's some good players. I was invited to that, but my new hip wouldn't take that.
Yeah. There's a person on the front row, Jack, who was involved in Pantel, and he was the last chairman of K.O.P.A, I think, before it disbanded. Or no, the one previous to that. And he said he's happy to come on as well, Jack. You've got Tony Ponu there. You got lots and lots of top players there. You got Tony Philippou in the goalkeeper kit. Just some top players. Chris
you're
Bash.
Gonna get people messaging you, Mike, saying, "Couldn't you get a better picture of me?"
I'll send you some photos in 2005. The year before, or it was the same year that I stopped. Actually, I did the London Marathon, and to raise the last bit of money, I arranged a legends match between Omonia and Achna and guests at Haringey Borough, and I must have had about sort of squads of 22 of each from each side, and God, you name them, they were there, man. I've got a famous picture of Chagallé in the King's. We went for a drink after in the King's Head with his elbow against Tony Ponu's head. But the squads, and Jimmy Cattle was there, and I made K.O.P.A captain of Omonia. I had Tanji Banjo. Yeah. Tanji was a legend as well. Georgiou, obviously he played for Omonia. There was everyone. I think I love it now looking at it because obviously with Cattle not being here anymore, he absolutely loved it because he was managing probably 3 different generations of his teams.
Wow.
Of his best players. I'll send you all the photos. There's some great players on each side, man. So yeah, I just feel old looking at the photos because I don't. The first photos I don't recognize anyone. I mean, it was all after my time. So.
We'll get you back on, Chris. But we'll get you back on with some of these legends.
Do you know any of these? Is that the game you're talking about before?
Yeah, that's the same. That's the same game. Yeah. So you got Chris on the left, Chris Bash. Got got Cipriano there. He was a top player in his day.
Cipriano was Omonia Lefkosia were playing against Wales in a qualifier or something, and they stopped over to London en route, and they played against K.O.P.A at Wingate and Finchley. And from what I was told, I didn't go, but from what I was told, obviously the difference was incredible. But only 2 players held their own for K.O.P.A, K.O.P and George Costa, who I was talking about before. They are the only 2 that actually didn't look out, weren't overwhelmed. And obviously, the national team probably were playing in second gear. They really didn't want to risk the injuries and stuff. So K.O.P was a top player, man.
Yeah, and he said he's still involved in K.O.P.A now. He's still, he does the vets. He's in that group chats for the Omonia vets and everything. I mean, I think I'm right. I think he's the current K.O.P.A chairman. I'm pretty sure that's right. But he's a great guy as well, K.O.P. I've got a lot of time for him. Great guy. Top man.
Well, anyone that's watching, I know there might not be people watching live at the moment, but if anyone's watching on the repeat, put it in the comments with your favorite moments, memories, that kind of stuff. And if Mike has got anything wrong,
definitely got something wrong. I must have got something wrong.
Correct him.
Stel loves correcting me.
It doesn't happen often. Do you know what I mean? I've got to get my dub somehow. Right, one more photograph from you, Mike, and then I've got another one, which again, there we go.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's an old one, isn't it?
2009, Mike.
Yeah, that was my first.
You say old one. We went to bloody Moscow that summer.
Yes. Yes. I mean, wow.
Yeah, that's my man for Pinel.
there's at least, oh wow, that's a great photo. In fact, do you know where I'm standing there? Not to to my the player standing right next to me was Brazilian, spoke very little English, and the committee brought him over. He was like a Brazilian, could have made it in Brazil or whatever. Really skillful, but oh man, he turned like an oil tanker. But he was very good. And in fact, the person next to him is Neil. And it's actually Neil's birthday today, so I don't know if I doubt you're listening, Neil. You're out partying, but yeah. And the two next to them, they used to put what used to be my centre backs in my school team at Kingsmead, Zane and Adrian. Adrian was that height in year 9, like 6'5" in year 9. So we went a whole season unbeaten in the Enfield Midweek League. George, who's the goalkeeper, played for a long time. Yasha's doing his own stuff there. Chris Poo, yeah, lots of good players. Lots of good players there. Raf at the bottom. Raf actually played last week. I saw him play against plays for Salamina still. Raf, the fullback. Yeah, good. Yeah, good people. Yeah, good times.
Excellent. And I've got one more, and this came from no, don't worry. This came from someone that I'm connected to on LinkedIn, Coffee, right? And he messaged me today, and he says, "Hi Stel, notice your post regarding K.O.P.A. This is Leighton Athletic FC, a team I started with some friends many years ago. We played in K.O.P.A for 7 years. The team photo below, I believe, from our 2nd or 3rd season. Notice Frank McAvenny, top row, 3rd from the left. Frank played for us for a few seasons, ex-West Ham, right? Probably the biggest name to have played in the league. I'm directly below Frank, was injured at the time, so no kit. I thought you might like this pic. Thanks, Kos. Oh, that's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And
Brilliant photo.
We appreciate stuff like this because obviously it helps us, and also it gives people the opportunity to talk and remind themselves of how things were. And yeah, interesting one. Did you guys ever play against Leighton Athletic FC?
No, I don't remember Leighton.
I did.
Yeah,
I did. Yeah, they were. Had a bit of funding, and at some point got a few good players. In fact, Frank McAvenny, I believe, was brought to. Remember I told you about the Andy Clark's team, Phoenix Apollos F. I believe it was Panny who brought him into the league because he used to know all the West Ham players and stuff. So, but I, from what I understand, he might have only played 2nd division, Frank McAvenny, which was when you were in the dizzy heights of the K.O.P.A League 1st division. It was unthinkable to play 2nd division. I mean. So we just remember thinking he must be getting a good wage packet to be doing that, Frank. Brilliant. So yeah, but I remember Leighton. I remember beating them playing for Salamina en route to winning a league one season. So yeah,
nice,
brilliant.
Well, Chris, I've got a couple of quick questions for you. Funniest or craziest moment you remember on or off the pitch?
Craziest moment that I saw was playing for Anorthosis at Market Road, and that big Kos that I was telling you about was injured, and he's watching the game. There were a few concrete steps next to the pitch. He was standing with another guy called Kos, who was smaller than him, but quite possibly a bit crazier than him. That Kos had his best friend was a guy called Stel, who was playing right back for us. I can't remember who we were playing against, but Stel had a little bit of a thing with one of the opposition players who was apparently a black belt at something. And this guy, I think he got sent off. And as he was on his way off the pitch, he basically was doing like a stabbing motion, like he was going to stab Stel. Kos, how influenced and being teased by the other Kos, like, you're going to let your mate he's telling him he's going to stab him. Cos, the other Cos didn't need an excuse to whack someone. I saw him coming down the stairs like ready, and he was known. His hands were like his fists. He's pulled it back, and just as the guy's turned around, he's gone crack, and he's hit him. I see. He just knocked out the biggest player in their team, and so all of their players. It was almost like there was a magnetic force around Kos, because they all ran as if they were going to do something, but they all stopped safely with a 2 meter radius from him. But then I remember going and seeing this, walking into the changing rooms, and there was a medical room there, and I remember seeing the state of this guy's face, man, and his eye is hanging out of the socket and all that, and it was quite a disturbing thing. That was probably like, there were loads of scraps and all that. I've got another funny one actually. Hermes against Bark. It might have been Salamina at New River, and there's a Gibreon playing for proper Gibreon accent. I think he's playing for Salamina, and he's just physical, and he's constantly. I'm not going to mention who it was that he was giving it to, but it's packed at New River, and because this guy's fronting him, this Gibreon, I was like, "Hello, no, whatever, come on, whatever. I don't care who you are." His response was he's run over to the side where his girlfriend was. He was a bit of a pretty boy, this guy, and in front of everyone, he's given his missus. He's got get 10p, go to the phone box, yeah, and ring my brother, ring Jules to come and bring the shooter. Tell him to come and bring the shooter. All that in front of, and everyone's like, and then just as he's done it, a helicopter's flown over. And someone said like, fucking hell, who did she call? You know what I mean? Like it was military.
The A-team.
Something like that. So yeah, a lot of people saw it. It was funnier just because loads of people saw it. It was quite I hope he's not watching this. So yeah.
It's all right. It's long forgotten. It's done.
Best memory for me is winning the treble. 1998, winning the treble for Omonia, undefeated, winning the London Cup at Wingate and Finchley, winning the league in South London, or against the South London team, and then winning the cup at Haringey Borough and being presented the cup by the chairman of the Cypriot League, the Cyprus League, whoever it was at the time. Yeah, man, that was my highlight, and I voted player of the year that season as well, in a record-breaking year. Was for me, it was like I'd laid a few things to rest after that.
So personal quadruple.
Oh man, I've got a photograph of me holding all of them. Had something to prove.
Incredible, absolutely incredible.
Brilliant stories. Cheers, Chris. Some amazing memories there. Some great stories.
Yeah, good luck, guys. I hope this. I'm happy to spread the word and get other people in contact and send you some stuff. But I hope it's the beginning of something special. So even if it's just helping people talk about it.
Let's do it. And you're welcome to jump on again once you remember some more stories. Start writing them down, because I know you like writing things down.
Anytime, Ray. Anytime. Obadethelis. More than welcome, man. More than welcome. Well, thanks, Mike, Chris, thank you so much for your time, gentlemen. Thank you, everyone, for watching. This is Chris's Instagram. Give him a follow. This is Mr. Pieri's Instagram, and this is our Instagram and X. That is it for our first official episode of This is K.O.P.A. We'll be back soon. Maybe not next week because I'm going to the motherland. But maybe Mike can do it. I don't know. You never know. Mike's hosting skills have improved, clearly.
Thanks, Stel. Just following you, my friend.
Oh, come on. Don't be silly. Hey, K.O.P.A, thank you very much. Canixtas, and we'll be back very soon. Adios.